Okay, picture this. A company, you know, absolutely crushing it. Top of their game, market leader, smart people in charge, loads of cash.
Yeah, everything seems perfect.
Exactly. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, they start to struggle. Maybe even, fail. It just feels wrong, doesn't it? Counterintuitive.
It really does. It's a pattern we see again and again, though, across all sorts of industries.
It is. And today, we're going to dig into why that happens. We're exploring the hidden reasons behind this really fascinating paradox.
We are. We're diving deep into The Innovator's Dilemma, Clayton Christensen's book, which honestly, it fundamentally changed how people think about innovation and disruption.
A truly seminal work.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to pull out the absolute core insights from this work. Because getting why these successful companies falter, not just that they do, well, that's crucial knowledge for, frankly, anyone involved in any kind of organization or industry.
Right. We've got a fantastic overview of the book to work from, and we'll use that to uncover these surprising dynamics. We'll look at some pretty memorable examples, too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, get ready. Because sometimes doing what looks like good business right now, well, it might just be setting you up for a fall later on.
Well, yeah,
Let's get into it.
let's do it.
So the central idea, and it really is kind of mind-bending when you first hear it, Christensen basically says that the best companies, the ones doing everything by the book,
Listening to customers, investing heavily in R&D, optimizing everything.
right? Those are often the very ones that get completely blindsided when a truly new disruptive technology emerges. It's like their success actually creates the blind spot.
It becomes a trap in a way. And he makes this really vital distinction between two kinds of innovation. You really need to grasp this to understand the dilemma.
Right.
So first, there's sustaining innovation. Think of this as making good products better for your existing customers.
Like a faster chip in a computer or better fuel efficiency in a car.
Exactly. Making things faster, cheaper, adding more features, improving reliability. It's what established companies are usually brilliant at. They refine and refine, serving their most demanding, often highest-paying customers. It's about improving on what you already do.
Makes total sense. Continuous improvement. Keep the main customers happy.
Precisely. But then you have disruptive innovations. And these are the tricky ones. They're different.
How so?
Well, they often start out looking unimpressive. They might be simpler, cheaper, maybe less powerful or feature-rich than existing products.
So not immediately appealing to the mainstream market.
Not usually, no. They might underperform according to the traditional metrics that the established companies and their customers care about. But crucially, they offer something new, maybe convenience, simplicity, affordability that appeals to a different, often overlooked or emerging market segment.
Like a niche group.
Exactly. Or sometimes even non-consumers, people who weren't using the existing products at all.
Okay, that's a key difference. So one improves the other, changes the game somehow.
That's a good way to put it. Christensen uses the disk drive industry as a fantastic case study for this.
Ah, yes, the hard drives.
Right. Back then, the big players, companies like Seagate, IBM, they were masters of sustaining innovation. They kept making bigger, faster drives with more capacity.
Because that's what their main customers, the computer manufacturers, wanted, right? For mainframes, mini computers.
Exactly. They poured resources into hitting those performance targets, pushing the tech forward along those known dimensions. That was good management.
Okay, following so far. So where does the disruption come in?
Well, here's the fascinating part. The new entrants, the disruptive companies, they didn't try to beat the incumbents at their own game. They didn't come out with an even bigger, even faster drive.
No. What do they do?
They targeted completely different markets. Think the brand new personal computer market or later laptops. These markets didn't need the absolute highest capacity or speed. They needed something else.
Smaller.
Cheaper. Yes. Smaller, cheaper, maybe more rugged or lower power consumption. These new drives were actually inferior based on the old metrics. Less capacity, maybe slower.
So the established companies probably looked at them and thought, well, that's not very good, is it?
Pretty much. Our best customers would never buy that. But, and this is a crucial but, these initially inferior products got better, fast. They improved on their own performance trajectory, often faster than the mainstream market's needs were increasing. So over time, what started as not good enough eventually became good enough for more and more customers.
And then maybe even better for certain things.
Exactly. They improved, moved up market themselves, and eventually started stealing customers from the incumbents who were still focused way up high. Those giants were eventually displaced.
Wow. So the thing that looked like a toy or just niche ended up taking over. Really makes you think, what looks inferior or not good enough today?
Could absolutely be the thing that dominates tomorrow. It's a constant question leaders should be asking.
Okay, so why? Why do these smart, successful companies let this happen? It seems like they should see it coming.
Well, it's often not about ignorance. It's about rationality, trapped within what Christensen calls value networks.
Value networks. What does that mean exactly?
Think of it as the specific context a company operates in. It's defined by its key customers, its competitors, its suppliers, its cost structure, and crucially, how it defines profit and success.
So like the ecosystem that lives in.
Precisely. And this network shapes everything, how they see the market, what they value, which projects get funded, how they measure performance. These networks are vital for success in the current market.
But they can also act like blinkers.
Exactly. They become constraints. Established firms are deeply tied to their existing value network, particularly their current most profitable customers.
And those customers are asking for sustaining improvements, right? Better versions of what they already have.
Usually, yes. They rarely ask for the disruptive thing, especially in its early, less polished form. So when a manager looks at a disruptive technology,
They see low profit margins.
right, small market size, uncertain demand, technology that doesn't meet the needs of their best customers.
So rationally, they say no thanks, or maybe later.
Exactly. It makes perfect business sense within their current value network to reject or underinvest in that disruption. Why chase pennies when dollars are rolling in from your established products?
Okay, that logic is hard to argue with in the short term.
It is. And this leads to this fascinating problem Christensen highlights. What goes up can't go down.
Meaning,
Once a company gets locked into that upward trajectory, serving more demanding customers, needing higher margins to cover their overheads, it becomes incredibly difficult for them to move down market.
to offer simpler, cheaper products.
Yeah, their whole cost structure, their sales channels, their brand image, their internal processes, they're all optimized for the high end. Trying to compete at the low end would often mean lower profits, maybe even losses, given their structure.
It's like trying to turn a battleship on a dime. Their systems aren't built for it.
Very much so. Their culture might even resist it. We don't make cheap stuff.
So getting stuck only moving up market, that leaves the door wide open at the bottom, doesn't it?
It does, especially because sustaining innovation often leads to performance oversupply.
Performance oversupply. You mean the products get too good?
In a sense, yes. They develop capabilities and features that exceed what most customers actually need or are willing to pay for. Think about all the features on modern software or the processing power in phones. Do most people use all of it?
Probably not. I know I don't use half the features on my phone or computer.
Right. So you've got these products at the high end that are incredibly sophisticated, maybe complex and expensive. And then there's this growing segment of the market that just needs something simpler, good enough,
And cheaper.
and cheaper. That performance oversupply creates the perfect opening for a disruptive innovation to come in at the low end. Something that's just good enough on the traditional metrics, but offers other benefits, like price or ease of use.
Can you give another example of that?
Sure. A really powerful one is the mini steel mills versus the big integrated steel plants.
Right, the steel industry.
Yeah. The traditional integrated mills were huge, complex, expensive operations. They made high-quality steel for demanding applications like cars and appliances. Very efficient at that scale.
The established giants.
Correct. Then along came the mini mills. They used newer technology, often starting with scrap metal, which was much cheaper.
And they made lower quality steel.
Initially, yes. They couldn't make the high-grade stuff the integrated mills produced. Their first product was often rebar, the reinforcing bars used in concrete. Not glamorous, lower margins.
Stuff the big mills probably didn't care much about.
Exactly. It was a low-end market they couldn't really serve profitably with their massive high-cost structure. Their value network wasn't set up for it.
But the mini mills could make money there.
They could thrive there. And, just like the disk drives, their technology improved over time. They gradually learned to make better and better quality steel moving upmarket.
Taking more and more business from the integrated mills.
Precisely. Eventually encroaching on their core markets. It's a classic disruption pattern. Start simple, low-end, overlooked, then improve and move up.
Okay, wow. So we see the pattern, the paradox, the value network trap, the performance oversupply. It feels a bit like doom for established companies.
It can seem that way.
So the huge question is, how do you fight it? If you're leading an established company, how do you avoid getting caught in this dilemma yourself? What's the solution?
That really is the critical question, and thankfully the source doesn't just diagnose the problem, it offers some clear, actionable advice. It's not easy, but it's possible.
Good. What's the first step?
Maybe the most important principle is give responsibility for disruptive technologies to organizations whose customers need them.
Okay. Unpack that a bit. What kind of organizations?
It almost always means setting up separate organizational structures. Think spin-offs, independent divisions, or maybe skunkworks type teams that are shielded from the main company's processes and pressures.
Why separate? Why can't they just do it inside the main business?
Because the main business's processes, its resource allocation criteria, its definition of acceptable profit margins, even its culture, they're all geared towards sustaining innovation for existing customers. They will naturally, almost inevitably, starve or reject a disruptive project that looks small, unprofitable, and serves customers they don't currently value.
The mothership's immune system attacks the foreign body, essentially.
That's a great analogy, yes. The existing system is designed to protect the core, and it sees disruption as a threat or a distraction, not an opportunity.
There are examples of this, right? Companies that tried and failed internally but succeeded with spin-offs.
Absolutely. The source mentions Seagate with smaller disk drives and Hewlett-Packard with inkjet printers. In both cases, they really struggled to get traction for these disruptive technologies inside the main organization. The existing business units just didn't see the value or couldn't make the economics work within their structure.
But when they were set up separately,
They often thrived. HP's inkjet business became huge, but it needed that initial separation to find its footing, to develop its own processes and market focus away from the LaserJet business's shadow. It highlights that it's often an organizational challenge, not just a technological one.
okay, so step one, create a separate space. Got it. What else?
Building on that, you need to match the size of the organization to the size of the market.
Meaning, don't throw huge resources at a tiny market.
Exactly. Disruptive markets usually start small, really small, maybe unappealingly small to a giant corporation.
Yeah, $1 billion company might not get excited about a potential $10 million market.
Right, it won't move the needle. But a small, dedicated team or a small independent unit, that $10 million market could be a huge success for them. Their cost structure is lower, their expectations are different, they can be patient and grow with the market.
So you need structural flexibility. Big companies need ways to nurture small bets without demanding huge immediate return.
Precisely. Patience and the right scale are key. You can't judge a disruptive venture by the same metrics you use for your mature businesses.
Which probably means you need a different approach to planning for these ventures too, right? You can't just forecast sales for something totally new.
Absolutely. That leads to the next point. Discovering new and emerging markets is fundamentally different. You can't rely on traditional market research or financial projections for disruptive innovations because the market often doesn't exist yet in a predictable form.
So what do you do instead of demanding forecasts?
You adopt what Christensen calls discovery-driven planning. It's much more about learning than knowing. You make assumptions, you test them quickly and cheaply, you learn from the results, and you adapt your plan.
More like running experiments.
Exactly. It's iterative. Focus on learning what works, understanding the potential customers, figuring out the right business model through trial and error, rather than trying to execute a detailed, predefined plan based on shaky forecasts.
That requires a different mindset from management, I imagine. Less about hitting targets, more about learning fast.
Definitely. And tolerance for initial failures or pivots is crucial. Another critical piece is to honestly appraise your organization's capabilities and disabilities.
Capabilities and disabilities.
Yes, companies succeed because of their resources, sure, but even more so because of their processes, the way they work, how they make decisions, and their values, what they prioritize, what they deem important.
These are usually strengths, right?
They are strengths in the context the company grew up in. But those same processes and values that make a company great at sustaining innovation can become rigidities, disabilities, when faced with a disruptive challenge that requires a completely different approach.
Like a process optimized for high quality and zero defects might be terrible for launching a quick, cheap, good enough disruptive product.
Precisely. Or a company value that prioritizes high growth margins might prevent managers from ever pursuing a low margin disruptive opportunity, even if it has huge potential. So leaders need a really clear-eyed view of what their organization is truly good at and, just as importantly, what it's not institutionally capable of doing easily.
That takes some serious self-awareness.
It does. You need to understand your organization's DNA.
So, putting it all together,
Yeah.
identify disruption early,
Mm.
put it in a separate unit,
Right.
size the unit right, use discovery-driven planning, understand your capabilities.
Yeah.
What's the final piece?
The final and perhaps hardest piece is the willingness eventually to cannibalize your own existing business.
Oof, that sounds painful.
It is, because the disruptive innovation, if it succeeds, will likely start eating into the sales of your established products. You have to be willing to let that happen, even encourage it, before a competitor does it to you.
That's the real core of the dilemma, isn't it? The strategic imperative to disrupt yourself versus the short-term financial pressure to protect your current profit streams.
That is exactly the dilemma. Investing in disruption makes long-term strategic sense, but it often looks like terrible short-term financial sense, according to the metrics the main business uses. It requires real leadership vision and courage to navigate that.
Wow. Okay, that was quite the journey through the innovator's dilemma. It really turns a lot of conventional wisdom on its head.
It really does.
For me, the biggest takeaway is just how profound that central lesson is. That good management, as traditionally defined, listening to your best customers, maximizing profits, improving what you have, that can actually pave the road to failure when disruption hits.
It's unsettling, isn't it? But understanding it is powerful. And the ultimate takeaway for anyone listening, I think, is the need for what some call organizational ambidexterity, building on Christensen's ideas.
Ambidextrous thinking, meaning
Meaning being able to do two things well at once. You need to keep strengthening and optimizing your existing core business, keep pursuing those sustaining innovations, because that pays the bills today.
right, exploit what you have.
Exactly. But at the same time, you need to be systematically exploring and experimenting with potentially disruptive innovations, looking for what's next.
Explore for the future.
Yes, but critically, doing that exploration in the right way, often separately, with the right scale, the right planning approach, the right metrics. It's about managing the present and creating the future simultaneously, understanding they often require very different approaches.
Build for today, explore for tomorrow, and know the rules might change completely.
You've got it, often starting from that overlooked low end.
So, final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Where in your world, maybe your industry, your company, or even just products you use, might good management be creating a dangerous blind spot?
Yeah, and where might you see something emerging today that most people are dismissing? Something that looks too small, too simple, maybe not quite good enough yet.
Could that little wave be the start of the next tsunami? It's definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Keep observing, keep questioning.
Absolutely. Keep exploring.